Hi, so this is the video on early dynastic Egypt. So just to catch up on where we were in pre-dynastic Egypt, we went through the Paleolithic phase, the hunter-gatherers, then the Neolithic phase. Now remember that Neolithic phase was 12,000 BCE and we come up to the end of it, which is 3000 BCE. So 9,000 years of cultural development, farming, communities springing up along the Nile, turning from villages to towns into major centres, cities, each one having its own deity. And then we ended up with two regional powers. We had the followers of Seth in the north and the followers of Horus in the south. Well, things came to a head. And roughly 2950 BCE, the leader of the south defeated the leader of the north. And we know the name of the leader of the south. His name is Narmer, because he had this event commemorated on Palat, which was found in the ancient city of Nekhen, which was and it was actually found in the temple of Horus. So it's quite apt really, because Horus and Narmer, Narmer is the leader of the followers of Horus. And if we have a look at it, at the top of this side of the Narmer palette, between the two bull horns, each side, is the name of Narmer written in hieroglyphs. So remember what the power of writing is in ancient Egypt. Writing is magical. If you wrote something, these were the words of the gods. Wow. So he's associating himself right now with the gods. What Narmer does now, and these early kings, sets the scene for all the kings of ancient Egypt. Look at what look to the right there. You can see the falcon there is tearing open the mouth of the leader of Lower Egypt. Narmer is standing there holding the hair of the leader of Lower Egypt, and he's going to bring that mace down. Crash! Well, that smiting scene was repeated by all the other kings of Egypt that followed. Narmer sets the standard that all the other Egyptian kings follow. And down below you see the bull. Narmer is the mighty bull, able to seed the land and create the next generation of Egyptians. He's wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt. Now these crowns, these tall crowns that they wore, were very practical. If you're leading an army, the army needs to know who the leader is. So if you're wearing this tall hat, you're going to stand out in the crowd. Now let's flip it over. And you can see that Narmer is now wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt, proving that he has domain over the Lower Egyptians. And you can see all the prisoners are decapitated. So enough, I've finished. All my enemies are now destroyed. But you're looking at magic. Remember, the power of pictures with writing is just as powerful as the writing itself. If you had a picture of your enemies totally destroyed, they could no longer hurt you. Wow. He built a brand new capital in between Upper and Lower Egypt. His capital was in Upper Egypt, but he built a brand new capital, and he built it on the Nile. He diked the Nile. Part of the city was on the Nile. He wanted control over the River Nile. And this city later became known as Memphis. During the reign of Pepi II in the 6th dynasty, he renamed the city Menepha, meaning the white walled city. And we call it today Memphis. Wow. Now, how are you going to communicate with everyone in the country that you are the king of Upper and Lower Egypt? Well, one device that they came up with, which they came up with during the reign of Narmer was the Seric. And the Seric, if we have a look at Narmer's Seric, he's got the falcon on the top of the rectangular box. In the top part of it is his name written in hieroglyphs, and below is the palace facade. So this name, I think, would have appeared in every nome of Egypt. So everyone would know who the king was at that particular time. So whoever ruled Egypt, I think the Serics would change so the people would recognize the name, recognize who the king was. Wow. Now, this is quite interesting because Memphis was the home of the god Ptah, and if you look at the picture of god Ptah, it's got a green face. Well, he's also holding a scepter in his hand with an ankh on there, which means life. So the green face is about agriculture. It's about making things grow. He is the giver of life. So wow, you know, that's really a powerful deity to have if you're culture. This is also quite interesting because did Narmer take other names as well? Because all of the evidence that we have come from clay stoppers from different jars, so it's a bit sketchy. This is the birth of government as such. Was Narmer the Scorpion King? So was he Narmer, Scorpion King? Was Narmer King Aha as well? So these are areas which are debated. It makes sense that he had more than one name. He's identified with the mythical king Menz. So Menz was supposed to be this mythical king who would one day unite the two lands of Egypt into one nation. The importance of 2950 BCE is that Egypt becomes the first national state in the world. Wow, it's not a city state, it's a national state, a whole country, the first one. Wow, amazing. Now, these dates that I've given you, like 2950 BCE, when I started researching ancient Egypt 30 odd years ago, the date of union then was 3500 BCE. Then it got readjusted to 3400 BCE. And 25 years ago, it was 3100 BCE. And now it's 2950 BCE. And that's because new archaeological finds enable us to redate. And that could well change. They might take off another 150 years in another 20 years time. But what we're interested in is that this is the first dynasty, the first dynastical family to rule the first national state in the world. Now, so what's happened? The followers of Horus have defeated the followers of Seth. Aha, sounds quite familiar, doesn't it? Do you remember the myth of Osiris? I think it was created right now. I think Osiris was brought in to explain the legal status of Horus and where Seth belonged in this picture. Remember, the Egyptians have a great tolerance for deities. They don't conquer and say, you all now have to worship this one deity. They say, no, as long as you follow our deity as the main deity, you can keep your own belief system. You can keep your own local deity. And that's what they did with the myth of Osiris. They took all of these different ideas of what happened and they created the myth to explain it for future generations of ancient Egyptians. So Osiris would become the brother of Seth. Seth was the competitor for Osiris and he murdered his brother. Then the wife of Osiris, Isis, searched the land of Egypt. Osiris is brought back to life. Isis conceives their son Horus. Horus is the son of Osiris, the legal ruler of Egypt. Remember, According to the myth of Osiris, the gods left Egypt and they gave the land of Egypt to their favourite son, who was called Osiris. So Osiris was the legal guardian and king of Kemet, of the land of what we now call Egypt today. Remember, it was the Greeks who renamed the country from Kemet, the Black Lands, to Egyptus, which is where Egypt comes from that Greek name. So this is where I think they created the myth of Osiris, to explain the order of these different deities. Osiris is then placed in the seat of Abydos. Now Abydos, originally the main deity for Abydos was Wawepet, and Wawepet was the opener of the ways. He was the opener of the ways so you could get through the duat and into the afterlife. So Osiris now becomes the god of the dead to welcome the new spirits into the afterlife. Okay, so Osiris becomes the main deity at Abydos, and that's where Narmer was buried. He was buried at Abydos with the ancient leaf chieftains and leaders of Paleolithic, Neolithic times. So his tomb was at Abydos, but he also had a dummy tomb in Lower Egypt at Saqqara, North Saqqara. So that explains why later, even when they were building pyramids, they always had a dummy tomb, the two different tombs. Possibly the dummy tomb was in case your main tomb was violated, or maybe it was to explain the twin lands, the two lands, the one kingdom. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. Please tell your friends. The more subscriptions I get, the more I can apply for that domain name. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye for now.